front of my trusty mirror. So I've shaved my head. Let me get out of that sunlight a little bit. About 4 or 5 days ago, I shaved this top area here to a number 3 and the sides to a number 2. So let's just take a quick look at that. So here is my right side, and noteworthy, and I've mentioned this many times, because I had what's called a craniotomy where my skull was actually taken apart and reassembled, I have this scar that goes across my head. And I have a whole story where Dr. Wong of Hassan and Wong, he revised that scar. It used to be very thick and crooked, and now it's thin. But because of hair loss and because of that scar, and the doctor is avoiding the area, this temple point, it's like it's missing a chunk. And if you look at this left one that was reconstructed, and fortunately I still had enough hair that doctors could see the pattern. This one is missing, and I've tried to convince various doctors, and some have even tried to extend that out, but I'm pretty much tapped out of donor hair with, I guess, a little bit of leg hair and chest hair and a very, very small amount of head donor hair if I really needed it. But so that really leaves SMP. Let's finish taking a look here. I'm going to need this mirror for this part. So go over the top here. And in some lighting, it looks like I have like this thick, full head of hair. And then in other lighting, it still looks somewhat see-through. See this back here, get a good look. Yeah, the pattern, though, that was a doctor here in Thailand. That's really good. It captures that whirl that was gone. I've decided I'm going to do SMP one more time, but I'm going to do things a little different this time. So you see my eyebrows? This is real hair, but all this piece of my eyebrow, just for whatever reason, is missing. And my mother had the same problem, so that might be genetic or just age. But so all this has been reconstructed with what they call nano blades. And it's a combination of using a little knife and tattooing, shading. And I'm quite happy with that. And that is the original shape of my eyebrows. It wasn't ever like thick all the way across. It always got thin like that. And then I realized that I could probably, right on this edge here, where it tends to be less dense, I could use that same technique just on this outer edge, and then have that blend into SMP to give the look of real hair. And I have found an artist here in Thailand, in Bangkok, who's going to do that. And my wife also wants a touch-up of her eyebrows, so that woman also does eyebrows, all kinds of cosmetic stuff. You can just shade or tattoo the whole scalp, but that tends to just look funny. That does not cross the uncanny valley of verisimilitude where hair looks real. So I mean, if you have enough, you would get like a dermatch effect, and if you have enough hair, you might get a dermatch like effect. That's that kind of mascara that you would put on your scalp, but it tends to not look natural. So as annoying and tedious as it is, the pointillism tends to be the best way forward. So I'm going to get SMP everywhere. On the front, the donor area, which is very, in some areas, very severely tapped out. Let me see. I don't know how well I can point this out, but in some area it's very, very depleted. Let's try to go here. Yeah, particularly this lower. I know it's kind of natural through hair loss too, but I actually went to an unscrupulous surgeon early in my FUE journey. I will not mention his name, but he extracted from this area, none of it grew, and he damaged a lot of that hair. And I've heard Dr. Woods in Australia call that a devil's halo. Basically, you take the hair out and then you damage all the hair around it, and it's not you just transect it, you like damage the skin if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to go to FUE surgeons who know what they were doing. And this was in the Wild West of FUE days, early 2000s, where it was just catching on and everybody wanted a piece of it. So that was unfortunate. But so I'd like to get SMP everywhere, down everywhere that hair is, down on my neck and everything. So I'm excited about that and how that's going to look, because though I have come a long way, in some lighting, when you're looking right at me, particularly outside, my hair still can be looking somewhat see-through. But with the camouflaging effect of SMP, I think I'll be able to get rid of that. In a few days, I'm going to shave this down to a number 1 all over. I'll make a little video of that, and then after I get that SMP, I'll show you what it looks like. It's a Chinese New Year. No place will be spared from celebration. The music is dying down. I'm sure it'll pick up again. Okay, I've now shaved my head to slightly under a number 1. Why do I have my shirt off? I don't know. For some reason, having my head shaved makes me feel like I should have my shirt off too. There you go. A nice little show and tell. All right. So my head is a tapestry of the dangers of hair transplantation, what can go right and wrong. So you can see that hairline looks pretty good. It could be thick. This kind of ridge right here, I don't know if I'm getting that, hopefully I am. This ridge right here is kind of thin. And before I wanted to make sure no SMP was right along my hairline, I think I'm gonna push it right to the edge this time because that front is just kind of thin, right? So this left side, as I have said many times before, really looks perfect. But however, well, really looks good. There is a problem in the donor area, but I'll explain that in a minute. On this right side here, you can see looks kind of like somebody took a bite out of this, and that's have the scar here, and I don't know, maybe it makes sense, but every doctor has avoided this area, or perhaps hair doesn't grow that well in that type of area. Lighting's a little weird there. And let's take a look at my donor hair here. So there's like this band that goes, and this is from FUE, that goes, yeah, you can see this like light, yeah, sorry, it's up here. This like band that goes, there we go. You can see it really good there. Goes all the way around, and it's like super tapped out, over harvested. And then of course I've got my donor scar here, and I've had SMP and hair put in there. Yeah, at this length it's not really camouflaged very well, in spite of a lot of noble efforts to camouflage it. Just a little bit longer, as you saw before, is camouflaged fine, and I don't normally keep my hair this short. I think I probably will keep my hair somewhat short from this point forward, with some rare exceptions. So I just wanted you to see how it looks like. Number 1, it looks pretty good. It just needs a little touch up. I think I'm just a perfect candidate for SMP. You see my eyebrows here, they do these hair strokes. So right on this edge here, she's gonna do hair strokes to kind of bring this out. Hopefully just a little beyond that scar. I'm gonna get rid of that once and for all. Maybe a couple hair strokes on this other side just to make it match. And then it'll be all SMP behind that. One other thing I might note is, so you see me in older photos, and I don't really look very good. For one, I was overweight, and then I really had no discernible hairline. My face is somewhat long, so that just made it seem to go on forever. So even at this length, and my hair actually kind of looks like I have SMP, but this is real hair. So, and there's probably a little bit of the old SMP I got 2 years ago, but this is mostly my real hair. I can feel it. So it's really the magic of even that just little bit of hair really can change and improve your appearance. I might have gotten slightly more muscular, but not that much. But yeah, losing weight, eating well, and having that hairline has helped a lot. Having lunch here with my So I just got the SMP, but I want to mention something else first. So I have my eyebrows tattooed, but this one area they had messed up a little, and this woman, she also does the, one second, she also does the eyebrows. She can remove the ink, and she ran her tattoo gun over it, and she put something, look at the solution, it's like through osmosis, the ink came out. It's quite interesting. But yeah, so as you can see, I have this SMP, and this time I got the temple points. This was a different technique. Used the hair strokes and a little bit discolored, but that'll blend in. I had her go closer to my hairline this time. Last time I wanted to be careful and go back a little, but this time I went right up to the edge. I'll show you more of that at home, but this is just immediately after. Looking quite good right now. Again, this color will fade. And also, before I use this kind of brownish color, this time it's like a dark gray. Alright, back to our food. It's nice evening time then. Trucks that are just driving by, delivering fresh fruit and vegetables. It's fun living here sometimes. Another look at my Papsiu, delicious. It's called Moo Grop, a pork dish.
Pork belly.
Pork belly. Yum. Alright, it's the day after I had my SMP. I have mixed feelings about it. There's some things I think worked out well, other things a little less well. So here we see this area of my eyebrow where she actually removed some ink. I think that's going to be fine. So she added a little SMP here. Let me try to go in really better light here. Like the dots. That's not much change, and I didn't ask for much here. This is a little discolored right now, but I expect that's going to fade. And here, she used only the tattoo gun, but she did like strokes on the outside for my request. And then SMP within what you might call this temple point triangle. I don't know how well I'll be able to get this in this lighting. First of all, let's just take a look around. And I still haven't washed my hair, and things tend to change a lot in the first few days. Some of the color will fade, some dots that look big may look smaller, so I'm certainly not fully judging it now, just my opinion presently. Okay, so again, here we see this right temple point, and she went all the way down this lower area, and then there's this band here where it's kind of discolored. She added some there, and a lot of this darkness you see, that's just leftover ink. When I finally do wash my hair, a lot of that will probably come out. So this woman, her specialty is eyebrows, and she did my wife's eyebrows, and that really turned out excellent. By her own admission, she's somewhat new to SMP, and I have to say that does show. What I'm seeing so far is some of the dots look too big and too far spaced apart to really make a big difference. So really my main concern was to fix this temple point here. One thing I noticed, and this is nobody's fault, but once that became fixed, I noticed I didn't notice this before, but I'm actually missing hair in this area. I don't know, I've trimmed my hair. I might have shaved some of that, but I don't think so. If you look on this side, you can see it's all filled in. And again, I have a scar here, and my head was literally cut apart. But I probably need to go back and fill this part in now that this is looking more filled in. We'll see about that. That's not real urgent, but that's probably something I'll need to do. She went really fast through it, and she mentioned that there was pre-existing dots from before, and she was just filling in the gaps, and that was all fine. But it still seemed like I just needed more dots to get that critical mass of shading and realism. Fortunately, I have a lot of hair. It's not going to be a big deal at all. I'm sure even growing my hair another couple centimeters, everything will blend in fine. So I'm not concerned about that. But this kind of trying to blend in this band of hair in the back and some of the areas where it's been over harvested, I don't know yet. I mean, maybe it will be all right. I don't know if you can see how big some of those dots are. But I think that's not going to have the full effect I was hoping for. What might happen, and I might be wrong about this, once I wash my hair, maybe those dots will get smaller, but of course when I wash my hair, there's not going to suddenly be more dots. So kind of mixed reaction. It was worth a try, and the cost was very affordable. I had gone to one place, and for the cost of just fixing this woman was willing to fix this and do my whole head. So basically I got extra thrown in, and I'm sure there will be some improvement, but not quite the full improvement I was looking for. There's Noi taking this, not, it's too dark. Some kind of plastic wrap on it, so obviously that's not the final look, but you can kind of get a look, and it really is a very good job. Looks very realistic. So what do you think? You happy with the eyebrow?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah, she's very realistic. Once she gets that cellophane off and it heals, that's going to look perfect. I can already tell. So that worked out well, and that was affordable. So it was worth experimenting, and the show goes on. Okay, it's the next day. I've taken a shower, cleaned it up a little. This one area, I actually used a little alcohol because I knew that was gonna be too dark and not quite right, so I wanted to see if I could get some of the excess off. The rest I'm gonna leave alone for a couple days. Let's take a quick look at this area right here. So I would say that's not quite successful. It looks a little bit like I have like stitches or something. It's gonna be all right because I have enough hair there, and that might fade a little bit. So I did request the hair strokes. I thought it might give a natural look. I think the strokes needed to be thinner and just placed differently. So I would say, I think when my hair grows in, actually it will work out all right, but it's definitely not quite optimal. And I continue to feel that the dots are kind of too big and sporadic. But again, because I have enough hair, it's really not a big deal. Let's try to take a quick look at this here. Right side, clean this up a little. Left side. Trusty mirror here. See the back. So I definitely achieved some shading, and there is some improvement. I'm not quite sure what to think. Let's go over the top here again. I've gotten a good amount of the extra ink off, so that is pretty much what it's going to look like. I guess that'll fade some in the coming days. So it is an improvement. I'm glad I did it. But this, I think I should have just done the SMP dots. That didn't quite work out as well as I thought. Fortunately, that on the side of my head, and not people aren't usually staring at your temple point. So everything will be all right. There's probably 2 cactuses of this size anywhere in Bangkok. Somehow I managed to bump into it and scratch my arm. That's right. It's February 4th, 2025. Hair's grown out a little bit. Let's take a look. So, looking very good. The SMP actually turned out a little better than I expected. As I've been discussing, the one area I'd still like to touch up is this area is still a tiny bit recessed. See here, it goes straight across, but here it goes back just a little bit. I'd love to get another 150 grafts. That would definitely have to be head donor hair. I've recently been seeing more videos about people using body hair, in particular beard hair. That seems to be the most popular source of body hair, from body to scalp. So head donor hair is always preferable. That hair tends to grow the longest and goes through the shortest shedding phases, as far as I know. But a lot of people like myself who just don't have enough head donor hair. The demand exceeds the supply. The demand for hair on your scalp exceeds the supply on the sides. So I see some people saying, just don't use beard hair. It's not going to look natural. It's a mistake. And I just want to talk about my own experience. And first of all, let's just take a quick look here. Try that here. Side. Back here. As for me, all the hair in, I guess, this first maybe couple inches, that's all head donor hair. And then in the crown area, that is also head donor hair. But the vertex area, that's probably 90% beard donor hair. There is some other sources, and at this point I couldn't even tell. So a long time ago, I went to Dr. Woods in Australia, and he had this theory that hair from other parts of the body would take, let's say the legs, you would put it on the scalp and it would grow longer than the legs. And that was due to having more blood in the head. The hair gets more and more enriched with blood. And I can definitely see on my legs, and as I get older, unfortunately, I have less circulation on my lower legs and the hair gets more diffuse. So hair loss obviously is more than just blood. Dihydrotestosterone and other genetic factors that can cause that. But I have noticed to some extent
that body hair, once it's on the head, behaves a little differently than in its original source. Now, back to beard hair, when I first got it, it seemed kinkier and it would lay less flat and just very wiry. Now it's been, I think, almost 5 years. Now, when I touch it, I can still tell what's beard hair and what's not. So by no means did it completely transform into head hair, but I have noticed it matured. It has taken on some different characteristics being on my head. So really the question is, how natural do you need it to look? Will you feel comfortable if it looks a little bit kinky and it stands up a little bit? As for me, I just didn't want to have any bald spots. So you can see for yourself at this length. I mean, I can see a couple standing up, and if I told you that, you'd be like, oh yeah. But no one has ever noticed at any length that I have anything but head hair on top here. Now, when it does get longer, the differences become more pronounced. So either if that bothered you, you could just keep your hair short, or just, don't worry about it. So I would say it is true that beard donor hair is not going to perfectly match the hair on your head, and you just got to think about what's important to you. Do you want to get coverage, or you just want to have this impeccably natural look? And you might look better with your head shaved if that is your goal. So if someone says it's just always a mistake, avoid it, I don't agree with that. And I can't speak for everybody, but in my own experience, it has been great. I would not have come as far as I have. And also in the scar, the follicular unit transplantation scar, I tried everything. I tried SMP, I tried head donor hair, and the form factor of it being concave, I just never could get rid of that. Now, finally having put about 450 beard hair in there, it's minimally noticeable now. And I think that's because of the fact it doesn't quite lie flat. So if you think about the fact, or you think about the scar being concave like this, and then if you transplant hair, it's just going to stay within that. So you're still going to be able to see the shape of the scar. But if the hair is a little kinky and resisting lying flat, that's going to fill in that gap better. And that's what has happened in this scar. So I would say that is the number one use. I would say beard hair is even better than head hair for that particular use case. For everything else, again, head hair is probably better, and you could try to blend it with chest hair or whatever other resources you have and you're comfortable using. So that's one thing I just wanted to clear up, that beard hair has its place. It's not perfect, but really hair transplantation really is. And you've got to make sacrifices and triage and some difficult decisions when you just don't have a lot of donor hair left, or just never did. Now let's just talk a little bit more about this temple point. So I would call this an artificial temple point because it's been filled in with tattooing and what they call microblading. This is all natural. This is also head hair, and I think a couple, maybe leg hair, and a couple other sources. So a couple things I just realized over time with hair transplantation. So everybody, thinks about the top, but one thing is, depending on the extent of your hair loss, and you've got to look at those Norwood scales. I didn't realize this. You will lose your temple points. It will be flat here. You can lose hair on your side, and the sides can even go down, and that creates these things called lateral humps. It's quite awful. You've gotten this hair transplant, it's looking good, and all of a sudden there's this gap, and really you've got to fill it in. So I have mostly filled that in with leg hair and also beard hair. And you can see it meets nicely here. There's, as I said, a little bit weak here, but there's no gap. And for years, I had to comb it a little bit to just kind of fix that. You've got a number of things you've got to take care of other than just the top. Now, the temple points, I would say that is somewhat of an afterthought. It's a little bit less critical, but the goal really is to frame your face, but it's more than just the hairline. As you get the temple points, you're decreasing the area of your forehead. So having these temple points frames it even more. And even someone who just knows nothing about hair loss and hair transplantation, you show a picture of someone, the same person, no temple points, and the one with temple points. And the one with temple points, they'll say they look younger, they look healthier. They might not know why, but it definitely makes a difference. So that is another consideration and another reason why you might want to use beard hair or some type of body hair resource up on this vertex area where people are going to be paying less attention to it. I'm short, so people can see the top of my head. But if you're tall, you have an extra advantage. Even less people are going to be looking at the top of your head. So really, it's just to get that critical mass going and save the head donor hair for temple points. And I also use the SMP, and that has actually worked very well. I'm glad that I did that, and it's increased my look even more. The other thing I've done, and I've talked about this recently, is getting my eyebrows transplanted. And I had this like little stump of an eyebrow here and here, and I didn't even notice it myself for a while. I noticed I looked older and maybe a little funny. All these things together of just completing this, I think squaring this off as much as you can, the temple points, but also the eyebrows. Now you can get eyebrow hair transplantation, but I would say that's a waste. If you get this microblading or whatever technique, tattooing, the strokes, it just looks like hair. So few people are going to be like concentrating deeply at your eyebrows. If you just got this kind of, I don't know, swath of tattooing and it's all blended, that might look a little funny, particularly if you're a man. But you can simulate very well with other techniques of cosmetic eyebrow recreation. So I would also say to improve your looks with the hair restoration, really consider your eyebrows. I think it's helped me a lot. I can't exactly say the aesthetic reason why, but I guess that frames your eyes. It just kind of balances everything. So these are things I've just kind of picked up and learned along the way. Really looking quite good. I certainly could stop here, and I might, but the final frontier would be filling in this little gap here. So when I look here, everything's looking great. Still in Thailand. I'll be going to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam in a couple of days. I love Vietnamese food, so that should be nice. Talk to you later. One last thing I forgot to mention, I've said this before, but just since I'm summing up everything I've done as far as restoring my hair recently, is for the past 5 years, I've also been taking 1 milligram finasteride Propecia every day and 5 milligram oral minoxidil every day. I originally was taking a lower dosage of that, and I had some really minor heart palpitations, but I boosted that to 5 milligrams and I've had no problems. I initially did that under a doctor's care, but you can get both over the counter here in Thailand, which is really useful. And I have noticed continued improvement still in my crown area from those medicines. I think the rest was probably too far gone to save. I do think it's helping keep what I have, but I have actually noticed a little bit additional improvement in the crown area. So that is my hair regimen and hair restoration journey up to now. I just wanted to show you specifically what I was talking about on my leg here. I have not had any hair extraction done from this part of my leg. And as you go down, you can see it's pretty thick. The hair is pretty thick everywhere. But then when you get down to this ankle area where there's less circulation, there is also less hair. That is not due to male pattern baldness, that is due to circulation. Unfortunately, as I get older, I'm almost 50. You can see here I have had some hair extraction, and that's due to having donor hair removed. But here, where there has not been any hair extraction, it does get quite thin in this ankle area. Actually, right here, there's no hair. What I was saying is, theoretically, and in my experience, you take that hair and you put it in a place where there's more blood circulation, you could get more robust hair. One other thing while I'm at it that I want to mention about the beard hair, as far as I can tell, beard hair does tend to be the coarsest and most robust hair on your head. However, you don't have the benefit where other hair sources might be 2, 3, or even 4. And of course, you don't want those in your hairline. But when you start getting behind the hairline, having those multi-hair grafts can be useful. So that is somewhat of a downside. of the beard hair. While it is coarse, in a way it covers less area because it's a single hair. So it's more just like a filler. And if you can mix it with other hair, that's great. Take one last look here, and yes, some of it is standing up and looking beard-like. But as I was saying, no one has ever noticed that, and it blends in quite well. So it's a worthy source of donor hair in lieu of superior sources of donor hair.